Hello guys, and welcome back to a new video. So I'm currently sat in my good friend Matt's car, and yeah, we have some potential bad news. It's not looking good. I'll explain exactly what the issue is very soon. Before we get into this video though, do me a massive favor, hit that thumbs up button. It really does help me out. Let's aim for 500 likes. So exactly what do we have in front of us here then? So this is a BMW 116D. It has the 3-cylinder B37 1.5 litre diesel engine, and well, we have a low oil pressure warning on the dash. So I'll just give it a little bit of a backstory then. So Matt was driving the car and he noticed that he had a non-charging fault come up on the dash. He checked in his engine bay and then he noticed that his drive belt was snapped. Now I actually replaced the drive belt on this along with the automatic tensioner and the crankshaft pulley, what, less than a year ago. However though, I believe the drive belt has failed again because we seem to have a bit of an oil leak. I think the oil leak is coming from the rocker cover itself, but yeah, I think the oil has got onto that belt and it's just deteriorated it, and then it ended up shredding it. It has a new belt on it now. However though, when Matt took the car to a garage, they phoned him up and said your engine is scrap, because it came up on the dash that there is low oil pressure. Now, could it be a coincidence that the drive belt failed and then all of a sudden it comes up with a low oil pressure warning? Because that low oil pressure warning was not there before that drive belt snapped. So here's what I'm thinking happened. I think that drive belt has failed and it actually got sucked in through the front timing cover. Well, it's not a timing cover, the timing chain's at the back, but it's called a front timing chain cover, but behind the crankshaft pulley. I think the belt, or at least part of the belt, has got sucked in there, and I'm kind of expecting to see some of that belt stuck in the bottom of the oil pickup on the oil pump. Now obviously we're not going to know until we are in there, but because this car has been driven, it's been driven home, if it does actually have low oil pressure, the damage could have already been done. Now I do just want to state, I have already checked the oil filter, you know, to see any huge metal shavings or whatever, and the oil filter looks clean, so that's kind of a good sign. So I don't think we're really going to know much until we get in there. So I think first of all I need to drain the oil and then remove the oil pan, remove the sump, and then inspect the oil pump itself. So obviously car is up in the air, need to get the main front under tray removed. It's just a bunch of 8mm hex head screws, and they'll be able to see a little bit easier how that sump can come off. Right, so 45 million screws removed later, and this is the under tray off. As you can see, this is the remains of the old belt, which you got shredded to pieces. But now that that's off, you can start looking at accessing the sump. I suppose we can drain the oil first, see what that shows us, and then yeah, we'll start getting all those sump bolts out. Oil drain plug removed, takes a 17mm socket. Oil is draining nicely. I did notice though, the drain plug wasn't very tight at all. I don't think that was torqued down to 25 Newton meters. So it's potentially leaking. Yeah, it literally seemed like it was hand tight. But yeah, I can't see any chunks flying out in the oil. But I'm just going to leave that to drain for a few minutes or so. I'll put the drain plug back in, and then we need to get the insulation off the bottom of the engine removed. These engines are absolutely covered in insulation. There's one at the front, there's one on the top, there's one on the bottom. I get why, it makes the engine quieter, but just makes things an absolute pain, especially when everything's covered in thick oil. This video is sponsored by GOOLOO, and this is their latest and greatest jump starter, the GT4000S. Now, in general, I always recommend that you take a jumper pack in your car wherever you go as an emergency, because you don't know what may happen. Your battery may run flat for whatever reason, and you probably don't want to have to wait hours for recovery to arrive. So yes, I always take a jump pack around with me in the boot of my car. But let's get this thing open, let's see what it can do and put it through its paces. So before we do get this thing open, this thing runs at 4,000 amps on peak current. It has the ability to jumpstart a 12-litre gasoline engine, or 12-litre petrol for those in the UK, and it can jumpstart a 10-litre diesel engine. So yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to jumpstart either of those anytime soon, but I do have a 6-litre of V12 petrol which has a very low battery, which yeah, that should be able to put it through its paces a little bit. But yeah, 12-litre petrol and a 10-litre diesel, that's got to be a truck, hasn't it? So yeah, I'd be very impressed if this thing can jumpstart a truck engine. But yeah, like I said, let's get this thing unboxed, see what is included, and go through a few of its features. Wow, okay. I assumed the jumper pack was going to be a lot bigger than this. Very, very small and slimline. The jumper pack that I'm currently using is, yeah, quite a bit more chunkier than this. So you could just, you know, carry this around with you wherever you go, really. You could put it in your door card, you could put it in your glove box, like I said, in the boot of your car. But yeah, it should be relatively straightforward and simple to use. But in the box we do have a user manual. We have a bag for this to go in, which is nice. We have the positive and negative jump cables themselves. And then it looks like we just have a bunch of different cable options for charging it. So we have a cigarette lighter 12-volt charger here, and then we also have a couple of USB options as well. But like I said, the main thing when it comes to using a jump pack is if it really works. And like I said, the biggest engine capacity car that I have is a 6-litre V12. So if it can jumpstart that, then it's probably going to be able to jumpstart most things. So then here is my 6-litre V12 BMW. And like I said, the battery is a little bit low on it. It's not completely flat, but it is low enough where the engine won't start. It's below 11.5 volts. So we should be able to see if this thing actually works and does what it says on the tin. So straight out of the box, we already have a charge. We can see we are displaying 77%. All we need to do is get the jumper cables themselves plugged in to the engine start slot. It's only going one way. It's worth noting as well that we also have the other connections in here, so we can charge it using these, but we can also use this as a bit of a battery power bank as well. But like I said, main thing we want to see is if this works as a jump starter. So let's get it hooked up. So very simple and easy to do. All we need to do is connect to the positive and the negative to any kind of ground, and yeah, it's already on. It's showing 77% and it's telling us that it's ready. So I guess let's try and get this thing fired up. Yep, no issues whatsoever there. Fired straight into life. And as you can see, we're now displaying 72%, so that actually only used 5% of its battery to get a 6-litre V12 engine fired up. So yeah, I'm pretty impressed with this. If you do want to check out GOOLOO, maybe you want to get yourself one of these jump packs in particular, I'll leave all of the details down in that description box below, so feel free to check them out. I want to thank GOOLOO for sponsoring the channel, but now let's get back to the video. Okay, so I've just noticed as well, they've put some sort of thread sealer on the plug. So I don't think the threads are stripped on the plug, but are the threads stripped in the pan? I don't know yet. What I can do while the oil is draining is remove the drive belt and the crankshaft pulley. I just want to see if any of that old belt has made its way through that front seal. So it's just a 16mm socket, rotate it clockwise on the tensioner, and you should be able to slide the belt off. And there's the belt removed. I'm going to have to remove the air box and the front air intake pipe just to gain access to the 4 Torx bolts on the crankshaft pulley. Right, well, some damage has definitely been done to this front plate. I can't see anything lodged in the end of the crankshaft though. But yeah, this front plate's definitely been worn away. The end of the crankshaft pulley itself has kind of been chewed up a little bit. This will probably be fine to go again. So, got the drain plug insulation cover removed, just held in by I think 3 or 4 of the plastic push rivets. Remove them and then kind of wrestle it out from underneath the engine. But I think you're also going to have to disconnect the starter motor as well, because the wiring kind of goes through it. But yeah, huge oily mess into here, but I should now be able to get onto all of the sump bolts. May have to remove the starter motor, not sure yet. Okay, so we've made some progress. I've removed the starter motor. It's held in by these 3 E10 bolts. Remove all those, drop the starter motor, and we now should have access to all of the oil pan bolts. I've already removed, I think, the front 4, just because they're kind of in the way of the subframe, so I've done them from above. Hopefully I should be able to get on the rest of them now. Oh, there's also 2 that come from the gearbox, holds that bracket to the sump itself. Remove those 2, but yeah, it should just be a bunch of them now, probably, I don't know, a good 10 or 15. Hopefully when I remove them, the sump will just come out nice and easy. Right, should be the last one. Okay, so as you can see, oil pan now removed. Bit of a faff trying to remove this. First of all, it was catching on the oil dipstick tube. Had to remove the 10mm, or actually 13mm hex head bolt was holding that in place. Pulled that out, and then the oil pan itself was still fouling on the subframe. So what I've done is just release the 3 Torx bolts on the bottom of both side engine mounts. That was the easiest thing to do. And then I've just got a trolley jack right on the front of the gearbox, jacking that up, and in turn jacking the engine up, and obviously it's allowed me to remove the sump. And I have some news. It's exactly as I expected to see. That's the oil pickup there. It's just absolutely full of that belt. So that's obviously the reason for our low oil pressure. So I'm going to remove this. Now, obviously I can remove it, but we don't know what damage has been done at this point. So I guess all we can really do is remove this, give it all a good clean out, reinstall it, put everything back together, put some fresh oil in, and then wait and see what the result is, I guess. Right, so that's how the oil strainer should look. Now, nice and clean. So I'll get this reinstalled with these two 10mm hex head bolts. So oil pump strainer reinstalled. I've gave the mating surface a good clean down, clean off all the old gasket as well. I'll just clean that last drip of oil, and then we can get the oil pan reinstalled. I've just used this L-ring Durco sealant, which usually does the job quite nicely. This front edge here, there is the timing cover seal that sits against that, which has its own gasket on. Yeah, I need to be careful getting this in place not to disturb any of this. I don't want to smudge it all around the bottom of the engine. I want it to go into place nicely while I try and get some bolts in. Okay, so oil pan now back on, starter motor back on, everything connected back up. A few things I haven't put on, I haven't put any under trays on or anything. Obviously I've torqued down the engine mount bolts, they're all now tightened down. I haven't properly installed the dipstick tube yet. That's kind of a bit of a faff to put back in, but I just want to get this thing fired up just to see if we have oil pressure really. Front timing cover back on. I expect there to be some oil leaking from around here because this seal is damaged. This will obviously need to be replaced if the engine is any good, but yeah, I think we should just get this engine fired up now. Obviously fresh oil in there. I think it's about 4.5 litres. So yeah, I guess we should connect the battery back up, give this thing a fire up. Well, I mean, it sounds a bit funky, probably partly because there's no crankshaft pulley on and there's no intake pipe or anything, but we don't appear to have any low oil pressure warning on the dash, which is good news, I guess. I guess we'll get the crankshaft pulley back on, get the drive belt back in place and start it up again. Right, so crankshaft pulley back in place, drive belt back in place, air intake pipe and airbox back in place, mass sensor also plugged back in as well. It does sound slightly knocky from the top end. There's like a deep kind of rumble as well, but I'm pretty sure that's from the exhaust. The exhaust is definitely blowing from the Flexi. But like I said, we don't have a low oil pressure warning now on the dash. We have tyre pressure notification, door open, set time and date, bonnet open, but no low oil pressure warning. Seems to rev up. So it's a good few weeks later and the engine does in fact run. Now I've actually driven this car, what, 100 miles or so now, and it seems to drive absolutely fine. No issues on the dash, no low oil pressure warning. The engine seems to sound okay. It is a bit loud. I do think for the most part though that is because all of the insulation is removed. So these 3-cylinder engines, I think they are quite loud from factory. They put a bunch of insulation. There was a piece of insulation on the bottom of the oil pan. There was a piece of insulation at the front. There is the insulation that goes on the top. And I think all that is really designed to quiet down this engine. So yeah, it does sound loud and it is also leaking a lot of oil as well. I did kind of expect it out that front crankshaft seal, but I wanted to drive this car before, you know, really spending too much money on it. I said to Matt, look, you know, after driving the car with low oil pressure, has some damage been done? Probably yes. How much damage? You don't know. You could get 100 miles out of it. You know, you could get 1,000 miles out of it. You really don't know. So I said, look, take it for a test drive. If it drives fine, then we can move forward. So what we are now going to do is replace some bits. So we have the front timing cover here, which contains the front crankshaft seal. So we're going to be swapping that out. Also have 4 new crankshaft pulley bolts. Obviously I've removed the crankshaft pulley and these should be replaced. They're one-time use only. And then we also have a new rocker cover. So I'm fairly confident that the reason that the belt snapped in the first place was because the rocker cover gasket was leaking. The oil spilled down, went onto the belt, eventually just, you know, kept going round and round and round, ate through the belt, and that went through that front timing cover. So I think we need to address the original leak first. Now you could say, why am I replacing the whole rocker cover? Well, it's kind of a 50-50 guess if it's the gasket or if it's the rocker cover itself that's leaking. So I said to Matt, like, for the time that it takes to remove the rocker cover, give it all a good clean out, you may as well just replace the whole rocker cover itself while I'm in there. You know, you kind of future-proof it then. So we're going to be replacing the rocker cover with a new gasket. Like I said, that front timing cover. And then we're just going to be giving it a good oil change. Obviously, fresh oil's in it anyway, but most of that's been leaking out over the past 100 miles or so. Obviously going to put a new filter in, fresh oil, and then he's literally just going to drive the thing and see how he gets on. Right, okay, so a bit of success. New front timing cover is back on. Obviously applied a small amount of silicone to the joint where it seals to the block, and I've ran the engine and no more leaks from there, so that's great. Now, next thing I'm going to do is, before I tackle the rocker cover, I'm going to get the dipstick tube back in place because that's sort of just floating there at the minute. It needs to be properly slotted down into the sump, and then I need to reinstall the bolt that attaches that back in place. And then I'm going to get all the wiring off of the rocker cover, get that rocker cover swapped out, and then just put everything back together. Now, I'm not going to show you me doing it step by step. I really just need to crack on and try and get this done in one day so I can get Matt his car back. But yeah, so far so good. Just going to crack on and try and get things done. So just halfway through doing the rocker cover replacement now, and I know people would be interested to know, is there any wear on these camshafts? Absolutely none at all. They look brand new. It's crazy to think this car was driven with low oil pressure. There's literally not one score mark at all on any of these camshaft lobes. That's crazy. Here is the old rocker cover itself. Was there any cracks in it? It's one of them you're not really gonna know. It could have been a very, you know, hairline crack. The gasket itself, it's not the worst I've ever seen. It is the original. It is dated 2015, so it is what, 10 years old at this point. But yeah, it's not super hard. It's obviously not like a fresh gasket, but yeah, it's not terrible. These sometimes get so hard they just turn into plastic and then just crumble to bits as soon as you take it off. But yeah, well worth changing anyway, along with the rocker cover itself. With the new rocker cover, obviously you have the crankcase breather all integrated into the rocker cover itself, so that's going to be new going on the car. But yeah, I'm really very surprised at the condition of this engine, at least in the top end anyway. All looks very good to me. Okay, so we're all pretty much now back together. All of the trim covers back on, airbox back on, obviously crankshaft pulley with new bolts, and the belt is back on. Yeah, it's definitely very dark now. Yeah, it's a full day job doing what I've done today. Under trays are back on. However, the exhaust where it meets the flexi, yeah, it's pretty much snapped clean off, so definitely need to be repaired. I need to weld a new flexi in place for that. So for the time being, the exhaust is kind of being held up by the under trays, which is not ideal, but it is what it is. I'm sure it'll be fine. But yeah, oil and filter done. I've topped up now to the max mark. I fired the engine up and it sounds pretty good. I'll let you listen though. Obviously, as I mentioned, the exhaust is basically non-existent from the DPF/downpipe. So yeah, it is quite noisy, but I think on the whole the engine sounds pretty good. Like I said, I'm fairly certain these 3-cylinder diesels are relatively noisy anyway. But yeah, it sounds absolutely fine to me. But yeah, for an engine that basically suffered low oil pressure and then was driven with low oil pressure for a good few miles, well, I don't think we've done too bad, have we? Okay then, so time to wrap this video up. I am going to now take this car back to Matt. Hopefully it makes it there with no further issues. I want to thank you all for watching this video. Remember to give it a like, leave a comment down below, subscribe if you have not already done so. I'll see you all in the next one. It's been a long day.